Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to season 14, episode 16, overall 731 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by our friends at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Row West in the Guelph. 905 Woodlawn Row West in the Guelph, Ottawa. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of OVs, electric vehicles, as well as Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969. I hope everyone is doing well on this. I can't believe it's already Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. I had a busy day today. I was at Toronto Argonauts practice at the University of Guelph Alumni Stadium, and I was able to get a couple more Argos player interviews, which will be on my YouTube channel and all my social media platforms very soon as well. And one announcement before we bring on our special guest tonight is my Run for Pause 40-yard dash for the Cambridge District Humane Society to see me run 40 yards in less than 14 seconds. It's going to take place on Wednesday, July 15th, approximately 1:30 after the Argos practice is over. And we're going to see if the old guy who's 54 can run 40 yards in less than 14 seconds and raise some money for the Cambridge District Humane Society, and also get the manager of media communications of the Toronto Argonauts, Chris Belnovich, to finally come on my show as well. So it's a win-win-win for myself and for the Cambridge District Humane Society. And hopefully you guys can come out to Argos practice on Wednesday, July 15th at 1:30 p.m. And speaking of the Argos, the Argo Bells podcast show with myself and Nick Small will take place sometime this week, and we're going to air a couple of those interviews. And the Argos are back in action on Friday, July 10th, 8:30, when the Boatmen take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I'm looking forward to my guest tonight. It's her first appearance on our show. We met through TikTok. She is a romance novelist, author, and she's a part-time poet as well. And she's from Northern Ontario. And we're going to bring on our guest right now, Roxanne LoMarc. And we're going to bring her on right now and talk a little bit about her book and a little bit about herself as well.
Hi, Chris.
Hello. Technical difficulty there, but thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
And this is your first time on a show like this, right?
Yes, my very first time on a podcast talking about the author thing and books and writing. So a little bit nervous, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
The first of many shows in the future for you.
We'll see.
So how are you doing, and how was your Canada Day holiday up in Northern Ontario on July 1st?
Oh, Canada Day, it was hot. That is all I really remember about that day. There was no barbecue, no fireworks. I was just lying out in the
That's
heat,
okay.
trying to survive. But it's always a good day because people tend to get it off, and you kind of just laze around with family, do whatever you want to do, kind of celebrate being free. And everyone thinks about it differently, but for me, it's all about connecting with family and just having an easy day and not worrying about work and things like that. How about you?
I basically had my birthday last week, and I did a lot of working last week, but I also did some shopping on Niagara on the Lake at the Outlet Mall. And then I went to a butter tart festival this past Saturday in Fergus. I love butter tarts, and it was a great festival, and I got some content from it. And then Sunday I went up to my cousins in London, Ontario, for a family barbecue. I hadn't seen them in almost a year, and so it was a pretty good and productive week. And I also do 4 or 5 talk shows on top of that. So
Wow.
I'm actually more busy now doing this self-employed and self-taught than when I worked in a company.
Amazing. Amazing. And I was just lying down and you did all of that. That's amazing. Wow.
I love what I'm doing. It's not work when you have a passion for something. By the way, what's your favorite thing about Canada? What's the one thing about Canada that you love the most?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what? I've heard Canada described as like a melting pot. And I think what I love the most about it is the diversity. I love that anywhere you go, you're kind of just expecting to see beautiful people of all walks and talks of life. And it's just we kind of put Canada first here. Everyone is Canadian when you meet them. And I think I like that. I think I like that people greet you with a smile more often than not, or that little, that tight little lip thing that we all tend to do in that nod.
Yeah.
I love how polite everyone is here. I like the beauty of the country too. Like where I am in the north, the winter time is just gorgeous. It's almost like a postcard. Like all the trees, they all look like Christmas trees. And I've seen moose up here, and I've seen fox and deer up here. And I just think that this is an awesome country for the people, for the actual land. And honestly, I can't think of anything that I don't like about Canada. How about that?
For me, it's butter tarts. Butter
Oh my
tarts and
goodness.
the fall. And the fall. My favorite seasons of the year are fall and winter.
You love the winter too. Okay.
I
Good.
find the summers are getting too hot and humid, and maybe that's why I'm now 5'4", 5'5" from the heat.
Yeah. It'll ring you out. The heat will ring you out. The summer used to be my favorite season until I think this summer. It's been too hot. And I was born in Jamaica, and it's been too hot here in Canada. So I might be switching it up to the fall as well as my favorite season. I don't know if I can fully embrace winter, even though I do love the way it looks and the way it feels. It gets really, really cold where I am. So maybe fall, spring, and butter tarts are awesome. I agree with you there.
Yes. Raisins or no raisins?
Either one, actually.
Same here.
I'm cool with
Same.
raisins. Yeah. Mhm.
Same here. Now,
Yeah.
you said you're originally from Jamaica. I've never been to Jamaica. Is Jamaica really hot and humid like it is here too?
Okay, so Jamaica is hot, but Jamaica is, I hate to say it, it's a dry heat. It's not
Okay.
humid like it is here. I know people always say that dry heat is different from wet heat, but it really is. And the thing about the island is there's always a beautiful breeze, and there's always amazing shade trees. So it's hot, but you're not dying in the heat. You're not like desperate for to be inside. And if you're outside, you're usually doing something that's keeping your mind focused anyways, or you're at the beach, taking a nice dip. So the way I remember it, and I haven't been back in a long time, so maybe I've romanticized it a bit. It's the perfect heat.
How much of an adjustment was it coming from Jamaica to Canada, especially with the 4 seasons here?
It was an adjustment. I don't know if this was done purposefully, but when I came, it was smack dab in the middle of winter. So we came snowstorm, just complete shock to the system, going from tropical weather to instant snow. But it was fun for us because I was a kid. So it was a lot of fun. We played outside. When you're a kid, you kind of adjust a lot more easily than I would say an adult would. So we managed. Yeah.
Roxanne, I'm based out of Guelph. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am an author. My novel is called Love and Other Two-Player Games. It's coming out December 1st, 2026. I'm a mom of 3 kids, live in Northern Ontario, like we already discussed. And I like words. I love lyricism. I like poetry. I like um, the way you can pick up a book and be transported to a different time and place and be inside the mind of someone else. I spend a lot of my time reading, and also, taking care of the home. I'm a homemaker. So I don't work outside the home right now, except for doing the novels. So I work for myself just like you do. And I think that pretty much sums me up. Drawing a blank as to who I am at the moment, other than that. A mom, a wife, and a writer.
And being a mom of 3 kids is a full-time job too.
3 full-time jobs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you balance it out with your writing and stuff too?
So I'm trying to teach my kids how to be independent learners. I want them to know that while it can be satisfying working for someone else or with other people, you get a great satisfaction out of learning how to be your own boss. So I encourage them to explore around them. My middle child has a habit of taking things apart. Like he'll one day we'll have a VCR and the next day we'll have the parts to the VCR. And because they're independent learners and they kind of know what they're supposed to be doing with their time, I'm able to balance the writing. So I'm able to set the example of this is what we do when we want to make our life for ourselves and we want to be successful. We put pen to paper or we put fingers to the keyboard and we grind it out and we research in books and we learn. So I'm the model and they're kind of following along with their own pursuits. So with the middle child, it's like electronics and learning how things work and pulling things apart. My older child, he likes music and he's very sciencey. So I encourage exploration and encourage independent learning. And that's basically how we balance it. So we're all our own little entrepreneurs in this house, doing our thing, learning and growing. And hopefully we'll find that passion, that niche, and just kind of grind it out till we get the kind of success we're looking for. So,
Roxanne, I wanted to ask you this too. I was born in the 70s, so I'm ancient. But I don't feel ancient.
not quite.
But back in the 70s and 80s, it was a different time. We played different. We didn't have social media, the internet. Do you find kids' attention spans nowadays are shrinking? Is shrinking?
Oh yes, 100% actually. I do find that. Funny story before I talk about that. One of the main elements of my book, Love and Other Two-Player Games, is a video game element. So the characters, they're in a game development studio. They're the CEO and the the COO of this game development studio. And if it wasn't for my kids, and like you said, their attention span, I probably wouldn't have had that really neat element in my book. Because I kept talking to them about the games. I'm like, listen, you can't always be on the game. I just told you to clean your room. And here you are sucked back in, just blanked out in front of the screen. And then it came to me, hey, I can really work this into my novel and make it into something. But yeah, so what we've discussed doing with the kids now is we've discussed maybe buying a little lockbox. It's come to that stage, buying a little lockbox for their laptops and their tablets and their phones, putting it away for a few hours and giving them time to look around and see the real world happening around them, because they do love it just a little too much. They do go outside, when I kick them out, just go play, and they love it outside. And we go to the skate park sometimes or the playground. So they're somewhat well-rounded, but I can see technology being extremely addictive to kids that young. My kids are 5, 11, and 13. And there's just so much on there. There are so many interesting people doing interesting things, and also so many people doing very silly things that just keep them mesmerized. So it's a hard one, but you definitely have to find that balance if you want your kids to be able to do other things other than just sit and veg out in front of a screen all day.
Roxanne,
So,
I wanted to get your opinion on here. I'm not a parent myself. I've never had kids, but I had nieces and nephews. Now that I know they're doing this in Australia and they're talking about it in Canada, do you feel the government should be able to ban social media for kids under 16, or do you feel it should be up to the parents to monitor how much their kids on social media?
ooh, um, that's a tough one. I do see how the countries that are implementing that, you said Australia was
Yes.
one. I do see why they would think it's something that they needed to step in on, um, especially when it comes to the more dangerous elements of social media. We know there's things like human trafficking. There's things like AI being misused or abused to produce materials that are harmful to kids, or using kids images in those harmful things. So I can see why they would want to step in. I do think that there's definitely the biggest role does fall to the parents though. um and to be honest, usually with age restrictions, it's just a matter of ticking a box. Are you over the age of 13, or are you over the age of 16? And I don't see it being a huge limitation if somebody wanted to just pretend they were. Like if you're 15 now in Australia and all of a sudden you have to wait one more year to talk to your friends online, I don't see the 15-year-old saying, okay, well, I'll wait the full year. Maybe they would, but maybe they just say, yeah, I'm 16 and continue about their day. So it's a tough one. I think what it is really, it's more like a signal um, to parents that, hey, we're finding some kind of like disturbing things about social media and children. We're seeing some negatives. We're seeing some drawbacks. Maybe you as a parent should be paying more attention, directing their attention to other places. So for me, it's more like a signal that we need to pay more attention rather than, yeah, I feel a government should always step in all the time, because it's not always effective. And I think parents can be more on the ground, for lack of a better term, because we're right there and we know our kids, like we know their limits and we know what other things they could be doing or should be doing. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's up for debate.
What are your thoughts on AI in terms of shrinking the workforce, but also in the schools and also as an author writing? Do you find the AI is kind of shrinking everything?
Okay, so in the publishing industry right now, in like the writer spaces and the reader spaces right now, AI is it's a very hot topic of debate, because there are two schools, right? There are people who see AI as this useful tool that kind of break down the barriers to entry into certain spaces. So research all of a sudden becomes much easier with AI. Um, for me, however, generative AI specifically, and this is where people might prompt AI to produce a work that's similar to someone else's work. For instance, say I become a popular author or something, or let's just pick, I'm not going to pick somebody. Let's just make up an author. I don't know, Juliet Simmons, whatever. And say somebody wants to write like her, but they can't. So they prompt AI, hey, can you write me this little passage in the way Juliet Simmons would write it? And we want to talk about, romantic attachments in here, and put in the grumpy sunshine trope or whatever. I'm making stuff up. The point is, a person can do that, and then they produce this work that really and truly doesn't fully belong to them, because they've prompted technology to take from another author's voice or another author's work to produce their work. Okay. There's also artists who are finding that their work has been kind of fed into AI, and now you can produce similar works to their art. And so now they're no longer as needed, as necessary um, to whoever's using the AI prompts. Okay. So if we fast forward to a world where companies who once hired artists no longer feel the need to hire artists because, hey, AI has your art anyways, and we can do a pretty good job of mimicking what we want, or even taking a mishmash of different artists and creating something totally new and unique for free. Or say there's a writer who now can just jump over the process of learning craft, right? Because with anything, it takes practice, it takes time. I'm debuting in December, and I expect that in 10 years, maybe on my 10th novel will be better than this debut, because I've grown, I've learned, I've been practicing, I've been writing, I've been doing. But now with AI, you can kind of jump steps. You can just kind of say, hey, just do the work for me. I'll prompt you. I'll tell you exactly what I want it to sound like, who I want it to sound like, and AI spits it out. And I think that's a real problem for many people being displaced. And also, it's just, it feels a little icky, a little unfair. But I can see a time where the things I'm saying right now might seem like I'm coming from a place of privilege. Like, oh, well, you have your full faculties and everything, and it's easy for you to say, but what about the person who is not as, hasn't learned all their grammar or whatever, and you want to like block them from this space that everyone belongs in. So I can see a time where AI is almost like advocated for in this way, and anyone who speaks out against it will seem kind of dodgy and kind of privileged. But for me, I think that there is a role for it for like research purposes, but to generate work that should be original and created by your own mind and your own hands, I think that there's less room for AI in that way. But I can get in trouble for saying this because it's very controversial. People have their different opinions on it. For me, I would rather write the thing myself. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want to feel that sense of accomplishment, that this came from my mind, even if it was inspired by the many books I've read or the many shows I've seen. It's still percolated in my brain and then came out my fingertips. So that's me personally.
I do use AI sometimes for my editing video when I'm extremely busy,
Okay.
but I use it in small doses. I think social media platforms, the internet, AI, if you use it the right way, use it correctly, and use it in the appropriate amount of doses, I think they're good tools. You just don't want to ever become 100% reliant on AI and also social media platforms and internet. And one thing too is some of these social media posts, you really have to be careful because sometimes the AI is so good you can't tell what's real and what's not real.
Mm-hmm. Do you mean like when people have their hooks or their captions or even the actual video?
Especially on TikTok and YouTube content creation. Sometimes I'm looking at stuff and it's like, is this really real or AI? So, and I think AI, it's a good tool, but it depends on it depends on who uses it. If somebody's using it for bad things, then it can be a bad tool. So I think it's always up to individual. How do they use it the right way or the wrong way? And hopefully most people will use it in a positive manner, not a negative manner.
Yeah. We have to definitely be responsible. And I think that even though it is up to the individual to use it correctly and to make sure you're not replacing yourself and shrinking your own brain, because it can become so easy to just say, let me just ask ChatGPT, how do I say this, instead of actually digging deep and thinking your own thoughts and saying, what do I feel about this myself, not ChatGPT, what should I feel about this, or how should I say this? So we want to be careful that we're not shrinking our own brains, our own creativity, stifling our own creativity. But I do think that there's room for regulation, because with anything, most people will use it for good, but a lot of people will use it for bad. And so there has to be something that says, hey, you can't do these things. For instance, I think it's Sean Austin. Do you watch The Lord of the Rings?
I've heard of it, but no, I haven't watched it, but I know what it is.
Okay, well, one of the actors from that, I suggest you watch it.
Okay.
If you get a moment.
Deal.
One of the actors, he's saying that we shouldn't be using AI to mimic celebrities, for instance. We shouldn't be taking their face and their voice to make them say things that they never said. It's almost like not almost, it is a violation of their individuality and what they stand for, because how do you know what they would think about XYZ? So that's one of the things that they want to regulate, is how AI is being used as an impersonation tool. And I think I agree with that 100%. I mean, some of the videos are funny, making somebody do something silly. But at the same time, you have to think, okay, but now how far could this go? And how could this go sideways and be used to create harm or to sway a group of people one way when they wouldn't have gone in that direction? How can it be used as a propaganda tool almost? So I see it going really, really badly if we don't reel it back in a little bit and regulate it a little bit, because you and I will probably use it like very harmlessly, like I need a caption. I'm so tired. My brain is fried, but I know I have to post something to keep my followers knowing that I'm still alive. But there are some very Machiavellian type people who are thinking way beyond that about how they could use this to their own ends, right? So yeah, every novel has a villain, and we have to start thinking, well, what would the villain do? We're normal, but what would a villain do? And then can they do it now that we've made AI so readily available and so easily accessible and no one's checking it? So
I totally agree with you, shrinking the brains. I was at a restaurant tonight. The waitress did a great job and all that, and I wanted to pay my bill on debit card, but I had some cash on me. I gave her $10 cash, and she had trouble doing simple adding and subtracting, so I had to do it for her. And she's like, I apologize and stuff like that. Not that I was an A+ student or great at math, but basic math skills seem to be diminishing these days.
Yeah, it happens, and it's really no one is like, it's not that the person is not intelligent, it's just that practice, right? Everything comes with practice, and the more tools we introduce to help us with calculations or writing stuff for us, the less we have to rely on our own brains to do that. And then so just like any muscle you don't use kind of goes away, it's becomes harder. And yeah, it happens. I think literacy is shrinking, so is numeracy. And it's because the tools are it's just so easy to just let the computer do it or let the calculator do it. But we still need to try to figure out a way to exercise our brains and still use the tools to their full potential without, any harm to ourselves or others. So
we could do a full podcast on AI alone.
100%, probably a few.
Absolutely. So I want to get to some more questions about yourself. When did you develop an interest for writing and poet writing? When did you develop an interest for writing and poet writing? And who were some of your early influences and mentors, if you had any?
Okay, so I think my interest in writing novels is more recent than my interest in writing poetry. Well, not I think, I know. I've been doing poetry since I was a little kid. I had a little poetry book, and I did just very, very simple limericks type poetry, or very, very deep thoughts. I love to rhyme for some reason. If I think of a rhyme in my head, I'm going to build a whole poem around it. But my poetry is different from the things you would see published, in that I like it very raw. I like it very raw and very real and very like unrehearsed and unpolished. Whereas with a novel, it's something that you want to see edited multiple times, and you want to just kind of drag out the process. When you're writing a novel, you might dump your novel all in one go over a few months, and then you put it in a drawer, you let it breathe, you think about it for 2 weeks. Then when you come back at it, knowing that you're going to rip it to shreds. You're going to like pull it apart and then put it back together again. You're going to chuck chunks out. You're going to put new chunks in. And then it's going to like go through the cycle of creation and destruction until it becomes something meaningful and something entertaining. With my poetry, it's kind of just for me. So I write something, I feel something, and then I put it down and I put it aside and no one ever sees it. Maybe 1 or 2 poems have made their way onto my social media, but all the rest of them, hundreds of them, are just in notebooks, never to be seen by the light of day, because they're just my thoughts and I'm expressing my thoughts. So the poetry has been with me since I was a kid. Novel writing is new, and I think it's probably a natural extension of my favorite hobby, which is reading. I think that a big influence on my writing is actually Sidney Sheldon. I don't know if you know him.
I dream a genie. I dream a genie. I dream a
Well,
genie.
I don't know if that's what I'm, even though I say he's one of my biggest inspirations, I don't think I've read all his stuff. But I do remember finding a half a book when I was between the age of 8 and 12. I can never remember how old I was. So this is in Jamaica. This is before I knew that there were libraries around. And I just read whatever I found, or I saved up money. And then we'd go to Christmas market, and whatever money I had, I would buy a toy or a book or both. And they were like my little treasures. But this one day I found half a book. It was If Tomorrow Comes by Sidney Sheldon. And if you find half a book, you read half a book, right? So I read the first half of this book as a little girl. And yeah, and then I was just transported into this world of this girl named, I think her name was Tracy. She was a lawyer, and then her whole her world came tumbling down. And I think the book left off when she was in like on a ship in a barrel, and she was sick, and then somebody pulled her out of the barrel, and then the book ended. I was like, oh no, what happens next? And it wasn't until 10 years later I came to Canada. I was a reading buddy at the library, meaning that I read with little kids who wanted to learn how to read. And then I remembered, oh my goodness, how did this book end? And I go to the librarian and I explain the book. I don't remember anything. I don't remember the name. I don't remember the author. I just tell her this is what happened. She was a lawyer. Then she got a canary, and then the case was like nullified because of something bad she did. She lost her livelihood, and she became kind of a con artist. And this brilliant librarian, actually knew what my garbled explanation was and said, oh yeah, Sidney Sheldon's book, If Tomorrow Comes. And I finally got to see how that story ended. And then I just hoovered up all his writing. So I think that he's probably a big influence, even though I didn't realize it. And then there's also C.S. Lewis, who wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That was my favorite Christmas gift of all time from my aunt. And there's just been a lot of books that have come into my life at the right time, kind of sucked me in, took me away from my mundane humdrum life for a little while. And they've become like the building blocks for who I am now. So there was also Anne of Green Gables was a huge one. And now I'm writing contemporary romance. It was a bit of a marketing decision on my part. Number one, who doesn't love love, right? Who doesn't want to see two people get together and fall in love and have their happily ever after? So there was that. And also was easier than doing a historical, because I was like, oh, I'm not going to do all this research. I just want to write about the here and now. I want to write about feelings. And so I did what I thought would be perfect for who I am. So contemporary romance it was, even though Sidney Sheldon is general fiction, and the other books I mentioned, they're kind of kids' books. I ended up in this space, and I think I'm happy here. I think this is my home. if I ever write something different, it might be a little bit more sci-fi than I have right now. But yeah, and so what you have to do once you've written a book, I did it the wrong way around. You actually have to find comparables so you know where your book fits on a shelf. So you don't just write, bring it to the bookstore and they put it up there. There's this whole process. There are these tastemakers, agents, and publishers that you have to go through to make sure your book has a unique enough message, is commercial enough that people are actually going to want to buy it, going to want to read it. You have to figure out who are your book buddies, who are you going to sit beside on the shelf so people know, okay, if I pick up this book, then it's going to be kind of like this book and I'm going to enjoy it. Because, think about anything you buy, you want to make sure you're going to like it before you buy it, right? In this economy, right? You're not going to be spending money all willy-nilly. So
the economy is kind of shrinking too.
Yeah, it's tough out there. Like the writing, publishing space is really, really tough. I think probably only 30%, and I'm making the stats up. Okay. I don't think the whole world reads. I think maybe 30% of people actually read. And I think probably less than that, like read for fun, like you have to read your school books and stuff but once you've left and you're out in the workforce, how many people are picking up books and how many people are picking them up repeatedly, right? And that's kind of what you have to think about. That's the business side of writing. So you have to think about, okay, are people going to buy this with their limited dollars, with, when they need groceries and they need shelter and they need clothing, are they going to buy this book? So the creative side of you is you have this story inside and you're going to write it to the best of your ability. And, you love the characters you're writing about and you love the message and you just think it's going to be a hit. But then the business side is like, okay, but you're also competing with the Sidney Sheldons of the world, people who they already know it's going to be a banger of a book when they pick it up. And you're new. We all know that, a debut, you're new at this. So there's like a lot of thinking that goes into this space. It's a huge challenge, but it's so much fun too, and it's so interesting. Writers, I think, have to be the most idealistic of people to think, that I'm just gonna put my words down and somebody's gonna read them. Somebody's gonna pay money to read it and put it on their bookshelf. And it's just amazing. I actually forgot the question. So if you could repeat it before I keep rambling.
Actually, I forgot it too. So it happens. I try to remember. I will remember when I'm not trying to remember. It's like when you lose something, you look for minutes, for hours, scrambling to find something. Then the minute you stop looking for that item, it shows right up magically.
Exactly.
Just like with this. So yeah. But I wanted to get your thoughts too. Being a romance novelist or author, do you find that it's diminished for writing romantic books? Do you find that topic is kind of diminished over time?
I wouldn't say so. I think that if you look at bestseller lists, you probably find a lot more literary fiction novels on there. And when I say that, I mean novels that are maybe more about an idea than, say, two people falling in love. But I feel like romance readers are really loyal to romance books. And I think the romance genre is not going anywhere. What I've heard, though, is that you want your romance novel to be a little bit more nuanced, to have maybe a little different elements in there. So there's book club fiction, there is science fiction, there's literary fiction, there is suspense. And if you can write your romance in a way to appeal to kind of a broader base, so you can bring in a little bit of the other crowd, like for my book, for instance, there's a touch of suspense in there. So people who want a little bit of a danger element, who like the excitement of like a chase or, specifically a stalker, will be drawn in. But I don't think the romance space is dying. I think it's very, very healthy space. And it's also very, very diverse. So there is it ranges from clean and wholesome to dark romance, and people have, different preferences for the romance they want. But like I said, there's no way love is going anywhere. It's one of the most powerful human emotions. And when you're reading a book, you kind of fall into that space, and the feelings that the characters are feeling, you're kind of feeling it too. And love is one of the most addictive emotions to feel. Who doesn't want to feel that warm hug of a first kiss or a first hug, or to see two people connecting on an emotional and a deep level? It's one of those things that I don't think people can get sick of reading. So now, I am not in the behind the scenes though. Like, there are agents and publishing houses who would know a lot more, probably AI. If we ask AI, he would know, right? Whoever the AI guy is. The AI brain would probably know, what genres are hot right now and where is romance going. But personally, I don't see it going anywhere. I think it's going to stay robust. I think women want a safe way to experience certain emotions, and they want healthy ways of seeing how relationships could work, especially when authors are very big on writing men how we think they should be romancing their women, hint, hint. They want to see that, because in real life, things might be a little bit different. Your man might be just a little bit more practical, a little bit more down to earth, a little bit more, let's both of us go take the garbage out. In the romance novel, the man's taking the garbage out, and he's bringing flowers, and he's taking you on dates, and you're flying in a helicopter here, there, and everywhere. So it's one of those genres that is kind of like wish fulfillment a little bit, kind of escapist, and it's just really lovely. Always has a happily ever after, even if there's a little argument in there. Usually it's very healthy relationship that we're witnessing on the page. So I think it's one of those genres that won't shrink, hopefully, because I'm an author. I want it to keep growing. So
speaking of that, I wanted to ask you this question as well. Do you feel romance these days has shrunk due to technology, internet, dating apps, and social media platforms? And also, how do you feel about hard copies? Do you find hard copies nowadays are diminishing and everything's going all digital?
okay, so real romance. Do I think real romance is kind of threatened by the dating apps and things like that?
And even AI
Okay.
dating.
I think that what's happened because of social media and the ability to kind of peer into other people's lives and see, I think what's happened is there is a misconception that there's all this fish in the sea. I'm going to use a cliche term. There are plenty of fish in the sea. And so back in the olden days, people might just date someone they met at church or met at the grocery store or met at a bar or met on the street. With technology, now that pool of people you could potentially meet seems like limitless, right? And on top of that, now you can kind of compare people, and you can kind of say, well, maybe I could pull someone that I didn't think I could pull before. And maybe it's not limited by availability or who's close to me, but who I can direct message and who will message me back. So I think dating has gotten tougher. It's gotten easier and tougher. Easier because now, there are dating apps for you to connect with someone else, but tougher because now your mind is thinking that there's more available to you than in actuality there is. But I don't know. I think that I'm no longer in the dating game, so I I'm happily married. So for me, it's probably not something I can speak to very coherently, but I feel like it's probably tougher dating scene out there now, even with technology making people feel like, you can connect a lot closer. I think also your phones can kind of get in the way of romance. I don't know how many nights I've spent like laughing at TikToks or being in the comment section of TikTok videos instead of connecting with my spouse, face to face. I almost want like that lockbox that I'm gonna get for my kids. I might slide my phone in there too, so I can like, connect a little bit more with my loved ones. But so I think it's tough. Like I think it's a two-way street though. It's made it more easy to connect or to initially connect, but made it harder to connect on a deeper level, a more meaningful level that's gonna lead to like lasting relationship status. And it's also up the comparison game. You're no longer just taking one person for who they are, trying to get to know them. You're now comparing them to the models you see on social media and the celebrities you see. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like a double-edged sword, right? You feel like you're getting more closely connected, and you feel like there's more availability, but I feel like the connections are less meaningful, and that there's more pressure to look a certain way or be a certain way, and people are getting probably a little bit more shallow, a little bit more,
I
not
think social
careful.
skills have I think social skills have diminished a bit.
I think so too. I think you're right there. Yeah. Yeah, we need to get back to the days of like connecting with people, talking to people. Like if you go on a bus these days, people will be on their phones or have their headphones on, and it's fine,
Yep.
right? It's your time to do with what you will. But there were days where people looked at each other in the eye, smiled, made small
Yep.
talk, and so we're more social and we're less social. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Roxanne, I want to promote your book. Just tell us about the inspiration for your book, a romance book called Love and the Other Two Player Games, your inspiration, and how you came up with the title of it as well. And congratulations on it being released, December
December
2026?
1st, 2026. Thank you. Okay, so the inspiration came from a few places. Initially, it was not a romance novel. Initially, it was a way for me to explore certain themes. I wanted to explore grief very deeply. I wanted to explore what it meant to say goodbye to someone, to lose someone. I think one of the reasons I wrote it initially was because I read another book, and the author, for some reason, kind of glossed over the death of a loved one. And I thought to myself, no way, no way. Grief changes you fundamentally inside and out and forevermore. And you cannot be the same as you were before you experienced that thing. So that's where it started. And then some other things happened. Like I said, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it a romance. It's not going to be just literary fiction of me mulling over, these deep thoughts. It's going to be a real person experiencing this, and what might that look like? And then with my kids always playing video games, I'm like, I'm going to make her the CEO of a video game development company. And so there were pieces that were pulled from here and there. And I didn't even realize there were so many influences in that book that I see now when I'm rereading it after editing and revising and thinking deeply. I'm like, oh, I see a little bit of that in there. And that's probably what I was thinking about when I wrote this piece. So it's kind of a mashup of book club fiction, literary fiction, suspense, a little bit of sci-fi because of the tech side of things. I do go into tech a little bit in this book. And so what it is about the CEO of a game development company who's experiencing the loss of her co-CEO, and her board of directors decides, okay, she's losing it a little bit. We're going to send in some reinforcements. We're going to hire this financial consultant because she's distracted by her friend rather than paying attention to the business. And then he comes in and the sparks fly as they butt heads, but they're also gonna fall in love. I can't pretend that that's not gonna happen. It's called Love and Other Two-Player Games. And the title came from the video game elements and the fact that I wanted to show that love or a partnership rather can really help you to get through things that you wouldn't be able to get through alone. And so anybody who plays video games know, they're one-player games, but love is a two-player game, and that's where that all came from. It all comes together when you read. I might have rambled just now, but when you read, you'll be like, okay, I get what she means.
What was the writing process like, and did you experience any type of writer's block when you were doing this book?
No. So for this book was just waiting. It was like, please get to the page. It just came pouring out. So there was no writer's block. In fact, there was like an overflow of things that came to mind as I was writing it. I wrote it very, very fast. And so I think it came out of me in 3 months, this story. Its first iteration, that is. And I thought it was so brilliant. I printed it off. I sent it to friends. And I was like, look at what I did. Look at this story I wrote. And yeah, don't do that. If you are a new writer writing your first book, do not send anyone your very first draft, because you're going to read it 3 months later and be like cringing hard at what you wrote and what you thought was good. So the process after the first draft and the first just, wow, look what I did, was a lot of revision. So you edit, you change things to make sure that you are bringing all the story elements to a point and a core message. Also with writing, there is character arcs that you want to follow. You want to make sure your character starts one place at the beginning of the book, goes through a transformation, and ends up in a different place. Usually what you're doing is you're having your character explore, heal a wound. So there's something, or even change a misbelief. So there's something they thought, there's something that they strongly believed in, or some wound that they had. And over the course of this book, some transformation is going to take place. They're going to have some realization, they're going to change, or they're going to at least be given the opportunity to change. Now, the process from going, just having your book on a computer to actually getting in a bookshelf is a whole nother thing that we can talk about. You have to query a literary agent. So a literary agent acts, for lack of a better term, like a gatekeeper and a tastemaker. So they're going to be the ones that you pitch to them. You said, hey, I have this story idea. This is what it is. It's written. It's kind of like this other book that's doing really, really well, or it's like this other author that sells really well. So I think you're going to want to put this one, pitch this one to publishers. And they'll say no, because they get thousands and thousands of pitches, and like they can accept maybe, I don't know, 30 of them a year, or 60 or 100 of them a year. It depends on the literary agency, right? And you're going to go through a lot of rejection unless you're super special and you actually have written a gem of a book. You're going to go through tons of rejection. You're going to develop a thick skin, and you're going to work hard at making that pitch even better. You're going to make that book even better. You're going to go through, like I said, the creative process of creation and destruction until you have this beautiful, beautiful work. And then an agent will say yes to you. Then they'll work with you on editing, and they'll pitch it to agents. They'll pitch it to publishers, like you've probably heard of Harley Quinn or Penguin, Random House, or my publisher is Haven Fiction, which is an imprint of Baker Publishing Group. And then hopefully they'll say yes. So there's lots of no's to get to the yes. Or in my case, I pitched directly to the publisher at a writer's conference, because I'm not good with no and I'm very pushy. So I went directly to the person who could say yes, and I pitched my heart out, and she saw enough in there to be like, okay, we're gonna take this, we're gonna work on it, and we're gonna make it into something that people will pay money for and read and enjoy, and maybe we'll launch a career for you. Well, that's the hope, right? So there's lots of different avenues. And then there's writers who say, I think I can do this myself. You know, I'm really good with marketing myself. I'm really good at talking about my book. And I actually want to sell directly to the customer. I don't want to go through an agent. I don't want to go through a publisher. And I don't want to hear all these no's. And I'm just going to say yes to myself. And these people are independent publishers or self-publishers.
Self-publishers.
And they do a phenomenal job, I think, of really connecting directly with the reader through social media, through TikTok. Bookstagram is basically Instagram for book lovers, and Book Talk is basically TikTok for book lovers. So they're just hashtags that people use. And so there's these different paths that people take when they believe in what they've done, and they want to see their book, and they want to have that someone have that story, like this was the book that inspired, you know, this part of my life, or helped me get through this part of my life, or taught me what a healthy relationship looks like, or really, you know, was there for me when I was in a tough place. This is my favorite author. They want those stories. They want someone to have that experience, or they have a message that they're wanting to share. And so there's multiple ways of doing it. And this is just the way that's worked out for me. I'm pretty blessed because I know there are people who go through years of writing and rewriting the story. There's some people who even heartbreakingly have to put aside their first story. They just say it's, you know, it's how they learn to write. And they go on to the second one because they're very resilient, right? And they go back at those agents, or they go back to those publishers, or they self-publish. And eventually it ends up being one of the 4 million books that we see being published and put on shelves. And hopefully it makes its way into someone's home. So I'm hoping for Love and Other Two-Player Games, now that it's gotten past all those no's and made it to the yes, and it's made it to actually going to be printed soon, you know, and going to be available it's available for purchase right now. Actually, it's available for pre-order. But one day,
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Where can people do this?
So if you want to pre-order Love and Other Two-Player Games, you can check out havenfiction.com. You can check out Baker Publishing Group. You can check out Amazon. You can check out Barnes and Noble. It's Kobo has it. I think Target has it. Basically, if you Google Love and Other Two-Player Games, Roxanne LoMarc, there'll be a whole bunch of different ways to pre-order the book, and then it'll be there ready for you to warm up your winter. And hopefully you'll like it. But remember, it's a debut, and take it easy on me in the reviews, okay? I think that we did a phenomenal job of making this book. And I say we because once you've gotten that yes, it becomes a collaborative project, and you get like editorial feedback. So an editor who's like seeing all the books on the shelves, or books like yours, will be like, this is kind of what readers, you know, might expect to happen here. Or did you think about this? Or do you really think that this is the best direction to take that? They'll kind of tweak things in your mind. You still have to do the writing. You still have to do the editing, but they'll ask really interesting questions because you only know your work, and you're very, very close to your work, to the point where you become blind to what the value or that worth of it is. And so these external people, editors, they can kind of see more clearly because they've seen multiple books, and they're not as close to it. They're not as like, their heart and soul is not in it, their blood and tears is not in it. So they can be more business minded, or they can be more, what's the word? I don't want to say neutral, but they have a clearer lens than you do. That they can help you elevate it beyond what it was before, so that it's something that not only can you be proud of, but someone else who doesn't know you, who isn't your mom, I'm going to tell you, you did really great, baby. Someone else can actually read it and say, yeah, this is actually really good. So that's why I say we worked really hard to make a really good book for romance readers out there. And I'm really hoping people like it. I'm going to be hopeful and say I think they will. So.
Did you ever thought about self-publishing, or did you know that you wanted to traditionally publish this book?
I knew I wanted to traditionally publish, and the reason is I am really great for the initial push for everything. And I think I'm okay at marketing as well. But what happens after a time is that I lose my initial drive, my initial energy. And so I knew I needed to have like an external partnership with somebody who was also invested in seeing the book make it all the way to the shelf, because it takes a lot to get it there. So, and I also knew that I wanted external validation. This sounds terrible, but honestly, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't delusional. I wanted to make sure that I didn't like the book because I wrote it, and that my friends didn't like the book because they're my friends. I wanted somebody who doesn't care about my feelings to also like the book and also think that it could be commercial and that it could sell. And then I would feel comfortable enough to actually put it out there, because ultimately, writing is one of the most critiqued professions out there. Like, if you want to sell and if you want to show up on Amazon's like front page, you have to get a lot of reviews. So you can self-publish, and a lot of people do it and do it really, really well. And they do completely fine because they have that confidence that they know what they're doing. But for me, I'm confident to a point. But I'm also one of those very, very hopeful people. I don't hear no. I keep going. So I didn't want to just assume that I'd written a good book. I wanted someone to say, yeah, you did write a good book. So that's where the traditional publishing comes in, because they're kind of like, they're not going to put something on the shelf if they don't agree that it's good and that it's going to sell. So that's why I went this route. And I needed I needed the deadlines. I needed someone else to say, yeah, you have to have this done by this and this done by this and this. Because if it's all me, 2-3 years in, I'm going to be like, well, I wrote a really nice book. Let me put it beside my poetry in my drawer. Right.
You know that I might write a book myself one day, going from security for 2 decades, from security into media, and doing it on my own. So I might look at doing that at one day in the future. Roxanne, I wanted to ask you this too. For our audience that's watching this show live stream and on audio platforms, and there's somebody out there that's looking to write a book for the first time, what advice would you give to them from your experience?
Writing a book for the first time. There's a lot of writing advice out there. I think that anyone who wants to write a book has to know first and foremost that they have to know the reason that they want to write. Okay. If you have a message inside you or an idea that's percolating in your brain or a theme that you just need to reflect on, you just need to know what your thoughts are on this thing. Then you're going to be self-motivating. It's going to come out whether you want to or not. But if you're thinking, oh, I just want a new career, I want to try something, I want to make some money potentially, then it might be harder to come at it from that angle. If the story is already in you, and actually there's a quote that says every person out there has a story, at least one story in them, right? They just have to figure out what is their one unique message, or what is their one idea that they just want to think on more deeply, and just go for it and it'll come out. There are people who will say write every day, even if it's 10 minutes a day. Open your laptop, have a ritual around it where you sit in the same spot, you have maybe your coffee or your tea, and you write, even if it's a sentence, even if it's a paragraph, just write something. There are people who will tell you have a notebook and a pencil. I think that's a good one. Have a notebook and a pencil, because as thoughts come to you, you want to jot it down, and maybe you'll have written a book. You'll have a notebook full of ideas without it even being an effort. But I think if there's somebody who has that thought, I want to write a book, you should start, but know that it's going to take, unless the message is bursting forth, it's going to take some discipline. And it's going to take some diligence, and you shouldn't expect it to be super duper easy. I think only 3% of the people who start writing a book actually finish it. So that's a low percentage. And then only 1% of people who start and finish in a book actually publish it. That's still a lot of people if you're thinking globally, right? But start, looking around at people who inspire you. If you're a reader, start thinking about, the books you've read and what you've seen on the shelves. Start following agents on Twitter. Twitter is a good place to find agents, and Instagram. Start following them because they'll talk about the writing process. They'll talk about publishing. Start following authors on social media, and kind of see, get a lay of the land. But for me, how it went was, I just one day, hey, I want to explore this idea. And I sat down and I wrote it, and 3 months it was done. Well, I thought it was done. And so everyone's going to have a different story. Lots of authors talk about rejection being huge. Like, you get a lot more no. Yeah, you got a lot more no's than yes. And, a lot of it feels lonely as well. So if you can find, a writing group, that's a good thing too. There are Facebook groups for writers. Join as many things as you can, but don't let these other things get in the way of the actual writing. So the best way to write a book is actually open up the laptop. It doesn't have to be a fancy document. It can just be Word. That's how I wrote mine. I just opened a Word document, and just started writing. And I think that my years of reading was behind me, giving me that push. It was a terrible first draft. I'm going to admit that now. But I got through it because the story was already just brimming, was just at the tip of my brain, and it wanted to get out. And everyone will have a different method. But if you try to get perfect, like if you start reading craft books, it's very good, but don't let it stop you from the actual starting. Just start. The idea is already there. That's why you have this thought, I want to write a book. It's already there. So just start. Figure out what the idea is. If you want to be an outliner, you can outline just 4 acts, what happens in the beginning, what happens in that second act there, what happens in the third act. Third act is usually very dramatic. And then what's the resolution? What's the end to the story? And it can be just a simple outline, and then you build on it, and you build in characters. Don't have too many characters up front, by the way. People's attention span, like we talked about, they're not going to be able to keep track of everyone. Just write a really simple story, build on it, edit it, and then start reading a ton. You have to read. If you want to be a writer, you have to be a reader. Look at what's on the bookshelves, because they've made it past the rejections. And yeah, just write. That's
By
my
the
own
way,
advice. Mm-hmm.
That's great advice. By the way, ironically, before we did our show tonight, one of my guests that was on my show about a week and a half ago, she's a mental performance coach for athletes and coaches, and she has
Oh,
her own
cool.
podcast show. And she just sent me her book that came in the mail today. It's about mindsets for players and athletes, but it really applies to everyone as well. So that's a book I look forward to reading, and I need to get back to doing more reading instead of digital reading. Get back to reading hard copies and stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think both forms of reading are okay, because you're still consuming the information, is still getting in there. I like, holding a book in my hands, but either way works. And she sounds really cool. I might have to go back to your shows, because I think authors could use those kind of performance coaches too.
Yeah, her name is Dr. Ibra Jaime.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember her last name again. I have so many guests. What I'll do is I'll email you the link for her show. She was
Okay.
great. We just didn't talk about sports, but mindset and belief and working with performers and stuff like that, and how to get them to relax in pressure situations as well. Very, very, very smart woman. And she just wrote a book, and I just purchased her book, and she just sent me a copy of it. So I'm looking forward to reading it as well. So
Cool.
before we wrap this up, Roxanne, thank you so much for coming on tonight and giving us more than 45 minutes. And I'm going to put you on the spot with these last couple of questions as we wrap up. What is 3 words? What is 3 words to describe yourself, and one fun fact about yourself?
Okay, 3 words to describe myself. I would say creative. I would say kind of bossy. I'll admit to that. And I'm a bit of a worrier these days. I hate that
So am
that's
I.
my third word. Oh my goodness.
I can relate. I
I'm a
can
bit of
relate.
a worrier these days. So I've been trying to find ways to like not pay so much attention to the news and doing those, let me worry about what I can control and let
Sure.
go of what I can't. One fun fact about me. Ooh.
I got a football player on this today. When I did finish my interview at the Argos practice today, at the end I asked him one fun fact about himself, and I stumped him, and he said he's never been stumped by a media before. So I always like to throw that in on my shows.
There's a few fun things about me. Unfortunately, the fun things are also very embarrassing. Very embarrassing things. Let me think of something. Oh, you know what? One fun fact about me is that I really love, it's not fun. I really love uh hold on, just give me 2 seconds. Be fun, be fun. I'm gonna go with something lame. I really like planting trees. Sorry, I couldn't think of anything better. Yeah, I'm thinking of doing an interview actually with the two trees that inspired book two. They're two trees that were born at the same height, and I planted them pretty much the same method in the same soil, and yet one tree has blossomed 3 times as big as the other one. And so their inspiration for book two, which is the B story, the secondary story behind the love story, is a story about twins. And they look the same on the outside in this case, but one is thriving and one is not. So I guess one of the fun facts about me is that I take inspiration from nature. For lack of something actually fun, I'm so sorry.
And maybe one day you'll write a book about me and your first experience on a podcast.
Hey, I'm actually going to write the date down because I do tend to write down important dates, first time published, first time, publisher said yes, first podcast with Chris Palme. And I do hope you write that book because I think you can write a really great book about being an entrepreneur for sure.
And it's not been
Yeah.
easy. And all my opportunities I've had to work and reach out for. Nothing's been given to me. And
Mhm.
you find your passion, and I can tell how passionate you are as well. And I think you're natural on a podcast. So you have an open invite to come back on my show again in the future if you'd
Oh,
like.
great. Thank you for sure. I'd love to come back on. Yes, yes. Maybe book two or closer to the release date of this one. And I'll be more prepared because I'll know what your last question is going to be.
And a fun fact about me is
Mhm.
I have never been on an airplane at
Oh,
the age of
wow.
54. I've never been on an airplane. I have a fear of flying and heights. And
Okay.
also, I'm left-handed, and I think you already know I'm down to 5'4".
You change your height every time we talk, though. So now I really don't know how tall you are. Are you 5'1"? Are you 5'5"? I'll figure
Don't
it out
tell
one
me.
of these days.
Def Definitely, and, hey, as we wrap the show up, it's called Ask the Host CDP a question. CDP, by the way, are my initials, so,
Okay.
um, just ask the host CDP myself a question. Do you have one for me to put me on the hot seat as we wrap this up?
Ooh, okay. Ask the host a question. Okay. Why do you love hosting so much? What is about hosting? Why was this the thing that drew you and has taken so much of your passion and time?
I think my former career in security prepared me for this because when I was in security for 24 years, I had to learn how to public speak. I had to learn to listen. I had to learn to ad lib, think, and show empathy for others. I learned how
Mhm.
to interview people. And during the pandemic, I had a work divorce with my other company. Both sides were ready to move on. I got a taste of broadcasting through volunteering and doing camera work. And the camera work led to my podcast show. The producer didn't believe me when I said I'm starting on my own podcast. And then a couple years later, my show got onto a radio station in Georgia for a couple years. I've had traditional radio and media kind of snob my work, but you know what? I use that I use that as motivation. And I tell students in high school too, when someone tells you no, it doesn't
Mhm.
mean you failed. It means it's a temporary, not for now, and
Yeah.
use it as motivation to keep getting better and improving. And I want to show the media industry that 54 is not a liability, and being self-taught is education. There are some professions. I do have a college degree in law and security. There are some professions you do need a piece of paper, obviously a dentist, a lawyer, a doctor, and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to prove to a lot of people that age is just a number, and being self-taught is also a form of education as well. And this technology, if you use it the right way, it can help you into a new career. I just love storytelling and learning from every guest and connecting with people. And even though we just met recently, it feels like I've known you for years.
Oh, that's so awesome. Thank you. And you know what? It's great what you're saying. I think I'm gonna have my kids listen to you, because this is one of the things I really want them to learn is self-motivation and working really, really hard and like moving beyond the no, because life is gonna throw a lot of no's at you.
Adversity,
And yeah,
adversity.
and you can learn, you can lie down, and cry and become kind of like a victim and just drift away, or you can rise and like work beyond it, work through it, or let it fuel you even. I think that this is great. So
I
awesome.
actually used to play small and shrink, and now
Mhm.
I grow. I don't let it stop me.
Mhm. Perfect. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do.
Always continue to grow and learn, and always stay humble and stay hungry, not just in food, but hungry in terms of learning and getting better. And I also take feedback from every guest. I try to and try to get better every show. Just like every player interview I do for the Toronto Argonauts, I just
Mhm.
try to be myself, and
Mhm.
I just try to get better every interview and learn from stuff. Nobody's
Mhm.
perfect, and you do make mistakes, but the only way you get better as a professional in whatever career, as an author or a writer, whatever you're in, the only way you get better is to learn from your mistakes. So don't beat yourself
Exactly.
up.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to remember that. Humble and hungry.
And a podcast name for your show would be Shine and Not Shrink.
Perfect. Wow. You're good
See?
at this.
And it's just it's been I love doing this, and I just love doing it, and it's the guests that are the stars of the show. I just try to get my guests to come on, feel comfortable, share their careers and stories, and also I learn something from every guest that come on here. And my show is very diverse with guests in conversations and easygoing, and I love doing what I'm doing, and I am very thankful for all my guests and for my audience. And I'm now at 23,000 listeners on Spotify,
Wow.
and who would have thought 7 years ago that I would have 23,000 listeners on Spotify? So
Amazing.
I
That's
want to say,
amazing.
yeah, and it's the guests and the audience that really why I do this, and I love doing this. And never judge anyone by their age. Judge them by their body of their work and their personality and character.
Yes, perfect. And I hope to have like a very big body of work. But yeah, I'm with you on the character thing. Definitely
100%.
important. Yeah. Yeah.
And when you
Thank you so
talk to the
much.
Toronto and when you talk to sports teams, they
Mhm.
don't look just for athletes with talent. They look for people that are good people, good characters in the locker room, good teammates, and that's what people need to do too.
Mhm. They look for heart, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Roxanne, finally, where can our audience follow you on social media, your website, and the best way of contacting you directly, and to plug your book one more time as we wrap this up?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. You probably won't want to follow me on Twitter. I'm very random there. Twitter is almost just like my little diary, just me talking to myself. But I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook primarily. I'm also on Blue Sky, I believe. My website is roxannelamarc.com. That's RoxanneLomarc .com, and the website will also link you to my newsletter. That's the place where I will, at least once a month, I try, maybe once every 2 months, reach out directly to people to their email to give them updates on my publishing, updates on Love and Other Two-Player games, or even do book giveaways. I love doing giveaways for some reason. I just want everyone happy and having a book. So I do giveaways there on my newsletter. And to plug the book once more, it's Love Another Two-Player Games. It is a contemporary romance that's kind of a mashup with a little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of suspense. It's an exploration of grief, betrayal, obsession, and of course, love. Has a happy ending. And I'm hoping it'll be really entertaining for everyone who picks it up. I love it. So I'm hoping that it'll find love out there as well. And that comes out December 1st, 2026, but can be pre-ordered pretty much anywhere books are sold.
And Amazon too, correct?
Amazon, yeah, is one of the primary places to buy. Yep.
Well, I want to say thank you for coming on. And for your first podcast, you are a natural on camera. So congratulations. You did a great job. You do have an open invite to come back on my show again, or my other show called the Small Talk Podcast, where I have a co-host, Marlene Sharp. She's out of Los Angeles. She's in the autism industry, and she's in the animation industry. And we do a show once a month called the Small Talk Podcast. So perhaps maybe in the future you'll be a guest on the Small Talk Podcast, and you have an open invite to come back on here again and maybe talk about some more of your books as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for having me and for making this easy. And I would definitely love to be back on either this one or the Small Talk podcast. So thank you.
Thank you. And if you could give me any feedback when you get a chance tonight or tomorrow, or even a video or even a quick video shout out of your experience on my show, that would be greatly appreciated, because I'm always trying to spread the good positive word about my show and the guests that come on here. And I'm really thankful we got to get this show tonight. And thank you for emailing me at 6 o'clock this morning. I got your email and we got it done. We got it done.
Yes, we got it done. Thank you. Definitely. I'll be in touch.
You too. Give me a little bit of time tonight, and I will send you the video, the audio, and some reels and clips for people that have short attention spans.
Okay. Choose only the best ones, please. If I'm rambling, chuck it in the garbage.
I promise. I promise. And I won't use AI. I will get the clips myself.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Roxanne, thank you so much for coming on. Continued success and congratulations on your book. And we'll talk to you soon on social media.
Okay, have a good night. Bye, Chris.
You too. All right, everyone. That wraps up season 14, episode 16, overall 731 of Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by BarryCullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, they have an employee pricing event going on at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Right now, you can get up to $1,673 off a 2026 Chevy Trax 2RS. That's $1,673 off a 2026 Chevy Trax 2RS. More details at BarryCullen.com. The employee pricing event is going on right now at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. For more details about their employee pricing event, you can go to their website, BarryCullen.com, or call them at 519-824-0210, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com, or pop by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall, and tell them that Chris Palme sent you as well. And Barry Cullen Chevrolet, if you're looking for a new pre-owned GM vehicle or an EV or electric vehicle or a Cadillac vehicle, there's no better place than the regional dealer in Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership as well. And as we wrap up the show, guys, I have a busy week ahead of me. I just conducted a couple more Toronto Argonaut player interviews today, and that will be aired on my social media soon, and also on the Argo Balance podcast show with Nick Small, to be announced the date and time. And I look forward to airing my Argonauts interviews as well. Toronto Argonauts, everybody, they're a talented franchise. They're a winning franchise. They have great players on and off the field. And the Argonauts will be back at BMO Field in Toronto on Thursday, August 6th at 7:30 against Calgary Stampeders. But the Argos right now are playing their games on the road as they're working to get BMO Field ready from the World Cup of Soccer into the CFL as well. And speaking of World Cup of Soccer, I'm not a big fan, but I have been following it because there's been 13 games in Vancouver and Toronto. And World Cup Soccer update today, Argentina 3, Argentina 3, Egypt 2, and the other game today, Switzerland 4, Colombia 3 in penalty kicks. So Switzerland and Argentina advance in the final 16 as well. And last night, Belgium defeated the US 4-1. So Belgium advances and the USA is eliminated as well. So it's getting down to the final 8 of the World Cup soccer as well. And it's been a big success as well. And as we wrap up the show, guys, my next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is going to take place on Friday, July 10th at 11 a.m. That's Friday, July 10th at 11 a.m. with my special guest, a friend of mine. It's her second appearance on our show. Her name is Kumutha Ramanathan. Kumutha Ramanathan. And she is the CEO of the Summit, and she is also a public speaker, and she used to be on Bloomberg Radio as well. So Friday, July 10th at 11 a.m., Kumutha Ramanathan will be on our show to talk a little more about the happenings going on as the CEO of the Summit, her own group, business group, and as a public speaker as well. And she's had a great career in media with Bloomberg Radio, and also I believe with Yahoo and CNN as well. And as we wrap up the show, guys, I have another announcement to make, and I'm excited to announce that Wednesday, July 15th at 1:30 p.m. approximately, I'm going to be doing my Run for Pause fundraiser in support of the Cambridge District Humane Society, as I will run 40 yards in less than 14 seconds. You can sponsor me at paypal.com/paypalme/Chris Palme, or you can donate to me directly in person with cash, or donate directly to the Cambridge Humane Society website, cambridgehumanesociety.org, and just mention it is for the Run for Pause fundraiser by Chris Palme. My goal is to raise $200 for the Cambridge District Humane Society, as well as running the 40 yards in less than 14 seconds, and to get Chris Belnovich, the manager of media communications for the Toronto Argonauts, to come on my talk show as well. It's a win-win for everybody. So if you're able to help, thank you so much. And I want to say thank you to Nick and Ken, two Toronto Argonaut fans, for sponsoring me, and also a thank you to my cousins in London, and hopefully we will get that $200 goal. So again, guys, Wednesday, July 15th, approximately 1:30 after the Argos practice here in Guelph, you can come see me run the 40 yards in less than 14 seconds. It will be recorded on video as well and posted on all social media platforms. And as speaking of social media and the Cambridge District Humane Society, if you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society, 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, across from the Center Mall, Cambridge Center Mall. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or visit their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. All the pets that are up for adoption, their pictures and profiles are on cambridgehumanesociety.org, and Michelle and her staff do a wonderful job looking after our homeless furry friends and ensuring they get adopted into good homes and families as well. And as we wrap up the show, guys, again, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and on Instagram, and hopefully soon on TikTok. And you can also check out my website with some of my best interviews, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. And as we wrap up the show, guys, you can also follow me on TikTok at Chris Palme on TikTok. I post a lot of content there as well. And also StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. And finally, guys, you can email me at cpalme19@gmail.com. And also the audio version of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is available on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. Please subscribe, like, and share. And that is about it for tonight's show, guys. I want to say thank you to my guest tonight, Roxanne LoMarc. Roxanne LoMarc, author and a part-time poet, for coming on as well. So thank you to Roxanne for coming on here tonight. Please check her out on her social media websites. I will put them on as we wrap up our show. Her website, again, is roxannelomarc.com. She's on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, Blue Sky Social as well. So thank you to Roxanne for coming on, and also to the Toronto Argonauts today for my media opportunities with a couple players. I hope everybody has a great night, and we'll see you back here on Friday, July 10th at 11 a.m. with my special guest, Kamutha Ramanathan, CEO of the Summit and a public speaker as well. That is about it. Thank you to you, the audience, for watching this on live stream, and to my audience on my audio platforms as well. And of course, a big thank you to Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership here in Guelph. Check out their website, barrycullen.com. Have a good night, everybody. And again, thanks for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, hosted by Chris Palme and brought to you by our friends at Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership.